In October 1933, United Airlines Flight 23 crashed near Chesterton, Indiana, after an onboard bomb detonated. The perpetrator and their motivation remain unknown in what is considered the first proven act of air sabotage in commercial aviation history. On October 10, 1933, just before 9 p.m., Joe Groff, a farmer from Chesterton, Indiana, was playing hearts with his neighbors when a huge explosion overhead disrupted the peacefulness of the evening. Joe and his buddies were startled by the thunderous boom and ran to a window, their gazes pulled skyward to behold the horrible scene of a flaming airliner dissolving in the night sky, showering the ground below with fire debris. The earth shook as the blazing wreckage smashed into the ground. Joe and his buddies rushed to the crash site, motivated by the desperate hope of finding survivors. But as they got closer, the inferno's wrath forced them away. Fred Rode, another neighboring farmer who witnessed the incident, arrived to discover a scene of complete devastation. Twisted fuselage shards covered the land, and among the flaming remains lay a decapitated woman, her body charred, and her limbs reduced to smoldering stumps. The plane was identified as United Airlines Flight 23, a 10-seater twin-engine Boeing 247 headed for Chicago, Illinois. The ill-fated flight began in Newark, New Jersey, and made a regular refueling stop in Cleveland, Ohio. There was a pilot change, and 2 more passengers entered the manifest, bringing the total to 7. The aircraft was now piloted by 25-year-old Harold Hal Tarrant, a 2-year United Airlines veteran, and his co-pilot, 28-year-old A.T. Ruby, a University of Illinois graduate. Hal was the son of an affluent Illinois merchant. His recently engaged fiancée, Bessie, awaited him at the Chicago station. Stewardess Alice Scribner, 25, was also on board. Alice was the daughter of a former Wisconsin state lawmaker. After college, she worked as a teacher and then as a nurse at Wisconsin's Bellin Memorial Hospital. She had recently joined United and met the airline's height and weight requirements, less than 123 pounds and no taller than 5 feet 2 inches. Her fiancé, Evan Terp, was also waiting for her at Chicago's airport. Dorothy M. Dwyer, 25, was flying to see her fiancé in Reno, Nevada. Close to where I am from, she intended to take an earlier flight, but missed it owing to a flat tire on the way to Newark Airport. Emil Smith, a 44-year-old former Army officer and grocery shop owner, had also boarded in Newark before returning home to Chicago. Warren Burris, a United radio operator, was one of 2 extra passengers picked up in Cleveland. Warren was being sent to Chicago to crew another flight. Frederick Schoendorf, 28, the manager of a Chicago-based refrigerator manufacturer, was also added to the manifest in Cleveland. At 8:39 p.m. Central Time, Hal's customary radio broadcast showed normalcy. Despite the minor precipitation above North Liberty, Indiana, the flight appeared to be on course. However, 20 minutes later, when his next scheduled check-in was due, the airways went silent. An hour later, the airline station manager got a brief teletype message confirming their worst fears. Flight 23 had crashed. Meanwhile, in Chesterton, fire crews, police, and local volunteers converged, their desperate attempts to put out the raging inferno proving useless against the wreckage's unrelenting flames. As the fire blazed throughout the night, the dismal reality struck. There were no survivors. Evidence revealed that a mid-air explosion had cut the aircraft in half, sending the main fuselage, which housed both the passenger compartment and cockpit, descending to the ground inverted at an estimated 150 miles per hour. Meanwhile, the severed tail portion, just forward of the lavatory, dropped about a half-mile from the accident site, practically completely intact. The bodies of Hal and his co-pilot, A.T. Ruby, were discovered near the aircraft's wrecked cockpit. The bodies of hostess Alice Scribner and passengers Dorothy Dwyer and Fred Schendorf were discovered nearby, among the cabin's rubble. The bodies of Emil Smith and Warren Burris were not discovered until the next morning, in the weeds about half a mile from the main body of the plane, near the tail section. Initially, it appeared to be a sad accident, possibly caused by a fuel leak. Structural failure was also postulated. Some felt the plane had been struck by lightning, while others speculated that it had been hit by a meteorite. However, mounting evidence of foul play prompted an FBI inquiry directed by Melvin Purvis, the chief of the Chicago office, who would eventually become famous as the G-Man who gunned down John Dillinger. A full-scale investigation was quickly launched, impeded first by the grim reality of looted wreckage. Onlookers from miles around were drawn by morbid curiosity and stole souvenirs from the accident scene, thwarting first efforts. For example, one engine's propeller was missing a blade, which investigators never located. In a 1999 interview for a project sponsored by the Westchester Public Library in Chesterton, resident Howard Johnson eventually revealed what happened to it, stating, quote, "Donald Slant, who later ran Flannery's Tavern, was on the local fire department. Of course, the fire truck went out there immediately when the alarm was sent out. When they picked up their stuff from the fire truck to come home after they had done everything that they could, one of the propellers was lying on the ground. It had broken off. Don was one of these guys that just laid his hands on anything that he could see, and he grabbed it," Johnson recalled. When they were investigating the thing, they couldn't find that propeller, so they thought the propeller had come off, and that's what made it crash. And here Donald had it all the time. I think it had red, white, and blue stripes around it, so that when the propeller turned, it looked like a circle of red, white, and blue. United Airlines sold the remainder of the debris to a scrap trader in Hobart, Indiana, for $75. He took it away just days after the accident. Despite the missing pieces, agents discovered other alarming evidence among the remaining debris, including shrapnel holes on the inner side of the back lavatory door. Airline blankets placed in a lavatory cubby had the same holes. On October 14th, the FBI, after consulting with the Crime Detection Laboratory at Northwestern University in Chicago, announced that the cause of the crash was a high-powered onboard explosive containing nitroglycerin, dynamite of high percentage strength, TNT, or some similar substance. The meticulous examination of the wreckage pinpointed the blast zone towards the rear of the aircraft, which most likely originated in the lavatory or the blanket compartment. The investigation centered on a piece of blanket, part of the plane's equipment, and several pieces of the plane's metal surface. Both had been wounded numerous times with little pieces of metal. Only a strong explosion could generate enough force to push metal through metal. This revelation converted what was previously thought to be an accident into a definite act of sabotage. Following the revelation, a hasty search for the perpetrator was initiated, with the FBI quickly zeroing in on passenger Emil Smith. Emil, who boarded the plane in Newark, reportedly bought life insurance only one day before the voyage. The $2 transaction offered a $10,000 reward if Emil's jet crashed. Furthermore, eyewitnesses reported him carrying many unusual objects into the plane, including a handgun and a brown paper sack stashed in the overhead compartment. A detailed look into Emil's past, however, showed a fairly ordinary life. The 44-year-old Army veteran, who served in Hawaii during World War I, lived with his aunt, Anna Riedel, on Argyle Street in Chicago. Previously, he co-owned and ran a grocery store with Anna until it was sold in 1930. Smith, being financially secure, pursued a leisure lifestyle that included hunting, fishing, and watching baseball games. Anna characterized him as a peaceful person who frequently joined her in the evenings for pinochle games. Emil's aunt informed police that he had gone to New York City for the World Series games on October 3rd and 4th, staying at the Roosevelt Hotel on 45th Street and Madison Avenue. While his stay at the hotel was confirmed, detectives were unable to corroborate his attendance at the game. His activities during his final days in the city were similarly unclear. Emil purchased his plane ticket and flight insurance at his hotel's front desk on October 9th. His last known movement before boarding the airplane happened at 2:10 p.m. on October 10th. Emil sent Anna a message that read, "Leaving New York today by plane. Everything is fine." Emil's brown paper sack was discovered amid the aircraft debris during a subsequent assessment of the wreckage. The sack contents were never revealed, but investigators judged they posed no threat. Emil was subsequently cleared of any participation in the incident. The ensuing months saw a rush of investigation theories, including suspected mob involvement, as a result of Joseph Keenan, an assistant attorney general entrusted with investigating organized crime, traveling on United Airlines just days before the disaster. However, this theory was quickly rejected as improbable. Pilot discontent was also investigated. A United States vice president issued an indirect threat about possible aircraft damage if scab pilots were used during a labor dispute. Furthermore, the brother of co-pilot A.T. Ruby indicated persistent problems with specific union members. However, despite interviews with the suspected source of these threats and proof that labor tensions had abated by the time of the crash, no evidence of employee sabotage was discovered. J.J. Lavin, an American working for the Chinese consulate and facilitating wheat supplies from the United States to China, was also interviewed. When FBI officials discovered that Lavin was supposed to be on the crashed flight but had rebooked to a later one, they became suspicious. He was said to have made statements about a bomb causing the disaster, allegedly before the information became public. Lavin disputed these allegations to investigators. However, he conceded the potential of such chats while under the influence of alcohol. He was eventually removed as a suspect. The investigation lasted for 2 years. On September 20th, 1935, the director of the Bureau of Investigation, J. Edgar Hoover, stated that all undeveloped leads in this case have been exhausted, and the investigation has not developed any facts which would justify presenting this matter to the United States Attorney. As a result, we are closing this case. The disaster of Flight 23 is regarded as the first documented instance of air sabotage in commercial aviation history. In addition, Alice Scribner was the first stewardess to die due to an airplane catastrophe. Velma Scribner, Alice's younger sister, walked down the aisle in 1940 wearing a handmade peasant frock imported from Paris. It was described as eggshell in color, with a smocked neckline and embroidery on the sleeves and front. Alice had planned to wear the outfit to her wedding. In 2017, the FBI declassified 324 documents from the investigation. Unfortunately, no new leads were generated. Who was responsible for the crash and why they did so is unknown. My condolences go out to everyone involved. Thanks for watching.